On the agenda tonight, we're going back to the late 70s. We're going to be having a listen to Bette Midler, and she's going to be performing The Rose. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, I do work my way through the request list, and Bette Midler is tonight. And as for this song, I didn't originally know it from The Rose, the movie, and I think here in the UK there's a boy band that released it that did very well in the charts, maybe even getting to #1. So anyway, there are different versions of it that I'm sure everybody knows, but everybody knows this song because of the various versions there are just flying around. But we'll jump into this as normal. There's a link in the description below if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it, because I will be jumping into this. Of course, we're going to be listening to the isolated vocal and running it through the pitch monitoring software. But let's see how Bette gets on. And I'm going to jump in immediately because no, I can't forget this evening. The last video that we did was Harry Nilsson, and Without You is exactly the same intro. Different key, I believe, but yeah, what are the chances? But again, that isn't this song. This is a different song, and we'll try and forget that. Not that you had it in your heads, but I had it in my head. So now that I've put it in your heads, we're going to try and forget it, and we'll cut and get straight back into it.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you, it's only seed.
I'm just gonna jump in here before things move on a little bit more dynamically. The interesting thing about this song, and I think the reason that it was requested for me to take a look at, is probably due to the pitch accuracy when we start the song. Because when I was listening to this, it's obvious that Bette, when she comes in, is a little bit flat. But when looking at it on the pitch monitoring software, when the note comes in, listening to it, I would expect it to be below halfway. It sounded quite off. And when we have a listen to this first note,
Some say love,
this first held note, we can see that we're right in between the D sharp 4 and the E4. So we are between notes, and even here, the C sharp 4 and the D4, we're between. But then when we progress, you'll be able to see how Bette locks into now that pitch accuracy just being a lot more accurate. But anyway, I wanted to get to the bottom of why I was hearing it flatter than I was looking at it on the screen. So what I did was run the piano, that's the only accompaniment that we get to Bette's voice, in order to see if it was actually accurate or not. And you might be able to see on the screen, if I make this bigger by quite a lot and then try and find the note, hopefully you can see how the piano is not on the line of the C4 where it should be, because yeah, pianos, keyboards are tuned to 440 Hertz tuning, and that's where these lines are. So the piano is sharp, which means that the vocal that we're hearing, if I now go back to the normal screen and I let it run on, you can see the vocal in the background, that when we're flat, that is exaggerated because the piano is sharp. So the distance between those two notes are exaggerated, and that's why it sounds flatter than it actually is. Now, as for why we have this discrepancy between where the piano should be and where it is, again, that's difficult to put your finger on. It might have been the case that the piano was recorded, and then when it's played back, the tape ran ever so slightly faster, because we're talking in late 70s here, so analog, and the speed of the tape is what determines the pitch of a note that you're hearing. So it might have also been that the piano in that first section was recorded differently in the studio, and then that's what Bette's singing to, and now they've replaced it with a piano that is actually sharp, whereas the first one might have been flat. But because Bette throughout the song then gets the pitch more accurately, you know, it's difficult to explain exactly what was happening, other than if you're just taking that first section and isolating it from the rest of the song is really accurate. So you could make an argument for she was given a guide in the studio as to what the intro would be, just really stripped back with the piano, and then it was played again for the real take after the vocal had been recorded, and that would explain why not only the vocal is a little bit flat, but then why it's exaggerated, because the new piano that they put on is now a little bit sharp. As I always say on the channel, I love to hear notes that are slightly sharp or slightly flat, because nowadays all of that gets eradicated and it gets pitch corrected. So this first note would the first held note would definitely get raised up to the E4. There's no way that that would get through in today's modern industry, with everything having to be at 440 hertz tuning, which isn't how music works. But as we listen through,
It is a river.
now to the isolated vocal, you can hear how Bette's placing her voice dynamically, leaving somewhere to go. And you can hear a little bit of air in there as well.
That drowns the tender reed.
The tender reed. And that little slide of loads of expression in this vocal throughout the whole performance. But the great thing is we can see it all on screen now with the accuracy as well. Let's keep on listening.
Some say love, it is a razor.
Look at these intervals, absolutely spot on. Na na, going up to that F4, na na na, and na na na. It's actually a little bit of a drop down there. I think it's maybe just a little bit of expression. Let's have a listen to what she does there. Right. It actually rises up ever so slightly. That's what it's showing us on the pitch monitoring software, and then we're just bang on that D4 when we then get down there. Let's listen on.
That leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger.
Again, we get that mixing of some say love, that little tail off, and then na 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 na, that really even vibrato. So it's not just vibrato the whole time. We do have a lot of it in this performance, but we get that light and shade of just changing and stylizing that vocal differently throughout the performance so that it doesn't become stale or just too much of the same kind of expression all the time.
An endless aching need. I say love.
And you can just hear that little drop in. Now that we've got the isolated vocal, you can hear where one recording finishes, getting the vocal down, and then the next begins. So this has now started a new vocal session in the studio, but when we take it back,
I say love.
you can hear it's a lot softer coming in.
It is a flower, and you, it's only seed.
Again, really even vibrato there.
It's the heart afraid of breaking.
And now we've got this harmony line that comes in, and I think this is going to be the case for the rest of the song. So the pitch monitoring software is obviously trying to pick up two voices now, so it gets a little bit confused, but we still have the isolated vocal, so, or should I say vocals now, so we can listen to them.
That never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking. That never takes the chance.
And you can hear straight away that this is Bette harmonizing with herself. Because it's isolated, we can hear that. So it's great because we get that match of vibrato. It's that same speed, it's the same expression as the lead vocal.
It's the one who won't be taken.
Listen now to how Bette is leaning into it. Na na na. We're kind of getting a little bit more in there. It's not quite at the point of getting rasp on the sound, but it is a world away from that first verse. When I'm saying about first verse, I mean this song is really simple because we haven't really got a verse, a pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, which is also called the middle eight. We haven't got a lot to this song, but it just works really well. It's almost like the simplicity is what you need. So, there's not too much information. You just get to appreciate the vocal and appreciate the message of the song without kind of going all over the place with the complicated progression. And I don't think we even have a key change. So it's just going to be the same the whole way through. And making that interesting from a vocal perspective is really difficult because you're not going to lots of places. Everybody's listening to the same thing in the same range all the time. And generally with songs, you'll see lots of different things thrown in as for a bridge so that it takes you on a slightly different journey to see a different sight, and then you come back to where you were by the end chorus. But we don't have that here. This is all about the vocal performance and the message of the song.
Who cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying.
And when I say about us not having, a designated verse and chorus, the way that's achieved in terms of making it sound like we do is just that vocal dynamic and the way that it's being changed by Bette all the time, because when we leant into it there, we instantly came back down. So it almost gives the first phrase a chorus sound and then the next phrase a verse sound.
I seem to give, and the soul.
So you hear that dramatic change from leaning into it to now getting lighter.
Afraid of dying, that never learns to live.
And again, we're just laying the foundation now, because everybody knows, even if you're not musical, this is something that you can decipher and understand and feel on a human level. What we're about to hear after this note is not going to be light. Because now she's, properly connecting those vocal cords away from that light sound that we had previously.
When the night has...
And that's your proof. You're expecting a bigger sound. And we definitely get that, because now we have those extra harmony vocals that are thrown in there that doesn't sound like Bette's voice anymore, but we've now got other voices in the mix that really fills in the sound.
Has been too lonely, and the road has been too long, that you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong. Just
And here we've had what effectively sounds like a chorus, even though we're not really changing chords, and we're now getting into the outro effectively. Again, we've still got the same chords, we're not changing progression because we're ending the song, and that's why it sounds different. This is all achieved with the vocal by taking it to a quieter place. It means that we've reached the peak of our mountain, and with the composition and the vocal delivery, the way it's been written is to leave you in a place of contemplation and not excitement. If we ended at the chorus where everything's just dynamically open and we've got all of the backing vocals leaning into chest voice, that would be an exciting end. But that's not what this composition is about. You have to be left in a reflective place. So that's why the vocal, the dynamics, everything drops off for the end to leave you emotionally in a different place.
Far beneath the bitter snows lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
And there we have it, perfectly achieving that goal of tailing off dynamically and therefore emotionally, having that effect on the listener. So yeah, there's loads in this vocal performance just because there's so little to the song. Obviously, this song was hugely successful and has been covered by many different artists, and the fact that it was paired with the movie that was also called The Rose, it meant that it did sit in very nicely, and written by Amanda McBroom, by the way. And just a bit of background on that, because this song, when Amanda wrote it, I think her manager said, or at least I've read, that her manager said she needed some slightly different songs and ones that sounded, more Bob Seger. It was just an example that he gave. So she wrote this song in about 45 minutes, and then once she'd finished it, she realised that, she didn't have a chorus or a bridge or any other sections that you'd normally write in there. It was just effectively like a verse repeated 3 times. So she, just finished that and realised that she couldn't think of anything else to add and left it as it was. And this song was among the songs that were given to the producer, or the producer for the soundtrack of The Rose, the movie. And apparently, I'm not sure how true this is, but apparently he listened to over 3,000 songs, and this was one of those that actually made the cut. And just a final bit of information, Bette Midler won a Grammy for Best Female Vocal Performance for this particular song, singing off Barbra Streisand, Donna Summer, among others. But the interesting thing is that the song didn't win an Academy Award because Amanda was too honest, and she said that she'd actually written the song a year or 2 before the movie was even made, and it wasn't for the movie. The movie got released in '79. So the Academy Awards have very strict rules about writing an original song for a movie. It has to be for that motion picture, but that wasn't the case, so she didn't win any awards there. But she did win a Golden Globe for the best original song, because their rules and regulations are a little bit less strict, so Amanda at least went away with something there. So another interesting one to take a look at tonight, because Bette Midler certainly isn't one of those voices that I listen to a lot, and it's great to get somebody's voice up on screen that I'm not overly familiar with, to just take a look at what's going on and to just clear up as to why that intro sounds a little bit more off than it seems, and it's because the piano was a little bit out of tune. But anyway, thank you guys for suggesting, requesting this vocal performance for me to take a look at. Keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comments section below. As always, let me know what you guys think. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!